All right, so when you first log into Canva, this is what you will see, similar at least. It's going to show you the home page. Now, this is your own personal home page. You have a search bar up here, and this is to search your specific designs, folders, uploads. So as time goes on and recent designs start to accumulate, it can be really helpful to keep you organized, which is why it's especially helpful to name things pretty well. It just makes it easier to find them. And so right here we have a bar of quick actions for various things you can do. And with most things in Canva, you can get to them in a variety of ways, which is really nice. But the quick actions are really helpful. We have a lot more AI features coming in Canva, some of which are still in their beta stages, but one of those is magic layers. We have presentations, so this is going to bring up a bunch of different presentations, slide decks. They can be downloaded as PowerPoint format, so you definitely get a lot more options in terms of templates and just different elements and things you can do, but then you can still download it and share it as a regular PowerPoint, which is nice. We have the social media icon. That is going to bring up a wide range of templates for different social media graphics, and that would be for, anything and everything in between. So whether it's Twitter/X or Instagram, post versus a story, Facebook banners, all of that will be there with the appropriate dimensions and various templates. Video is a somewhat newer feature in Canva, and it's getting better all the time. Again, can do it for mobile, for Reels, for YouTube videos, all of the above. And then I'm going to come on down here to another commonly used feature, which is the photo editor app, which fortunately, most of which is free, all of the different features within it, which is nice. So if you open up a design, you can edit the photo directly within that design, or you can also come here if you just want to edit some batch photos. That's one way to do it. We also have a custom size, so I'll just click here real quick to show you. It does come up with popular layouts. This is if you have a very specific design in mind, so maybe very specific ad specs, and you can go ahead and type them in here, even change the units if you need. And then lastly, we have this upload button. So again, you can upload any images, documents into specific designs, but if you want to remain organized, you can start here, upload folders, create folders, and then have them, and they will be accessible anytime you start a new design. All right, to come on over here to the left navigation pane, we have Create. It's a way to just quick start a design. We're on the home page, Projects, Templates, Branding. Now, as you will see, Brand has this crown icon, and Brand is pretty wonderful if you want to keep your logos in one place, different colors, can be really useful. However, definitely not necessary to gain like a lot of benefit from using Canva, some of the various AI features here. Then we're going to go back up and we're going to start with projects because it's always good to try to stay organized whenever you are making designs. So we'll come here and we're going to create a folder. We're going to call this Tribal Tab Canva Webinar. So this will always be within our projects tab. Now click here and any design that we make within here will be housed here. I'm going to click create design and we're going to start with the flyer portrait and we're going to treat it as if it were an event flyer. Okay, so as you can see, as soon as you open up the design, Canva is going to bring up some ready preset templates. And again, a lot of these are for pro users. So you will have to kind of sift through them, but there definitely are some decent options for the free version. It just kind of takes a little bit of looking. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. A lot of these are very busy. They have a lot going on. They might look really nice at first glance, but the more elements there are, including tiny little icons, those are the more things you're gonna have to click and resize and change color. So that is always something to keep in mind if you're kind of pressed for time. So I clicked that and it automatically applied it to this page. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this section, give it a title, and we will call it Grant Management Webinar. And then often I will also add the dimensions just to make it easier to see later on. Because if you're advertising an event, you might have multiple different kinds of graphics. Could be socials, could be an 8.5 by 11 flyer. So it's kind of good to differentiate whenever you can. I'm going to add a page and then I'm going to make this white very quickly. I'm going to go to this text tab over here. I'm just going to take this option for a little bit of body text. I'm going to put it right here. This is just to help me get started. I make this smaller, but move it over. What I am doing is taking some copy that I already have from a past event, but we're going to treat it like it's a future event. Paste it in here. And some of you might be very familiar with different shortcuts, but I use them a lot, some of the basic ones. So I would just, highlight this, Command C or Control C if you use Windows. This is the title of the event. I'm going to put in here. So again, double clicking, I could click delete or backspace, or I could just directly click Command V or Control V since I've already copied it. There it is. Now you'll see that all of these text boxes are grouped together, but they are individual text boxes. It becomes clear when you click on it. When you double click in a box because you have these separate lines, but also they're different sizes. So that's a pretty clear indicator. I don't want something above the title. So what I'm going to do here is click on it and then click ungroup. Often when I am modifying a template, I will save stuff for later. So I might not need it right now, but I might want to stick with this same font and that same size. So I'll just put it over here for now. So I do like how this looks generally speaking, but it is a pretty big image. It takes up half of the flyer, and I don't think it is quite that important. So I'm gonna pull it up here a little bit, pull this over. Now, if you see that line in the center when it shows up, that means that this is evenly spaced in the center of the image. There are a lot of guidelines with Canva, and you can turn on rulers. That can be really helpful. I'm gonna move this up. I'm going to double click in here and type in workshop so readers very quickly know what it is. Command A to highlight all of it. Up that text just slightly because I want an even number, 21. I want to make this element smaller, this oval, so I'm going to decrease it here. Now I want to add a little bit of information. Now this might be a bit much, so anytime you're designing something, you also have to be a bit of a copy editor because there's just so much information and people don't have time to read it. And if you try to fit it all in, it can just be overwhelming. So we might cut this down a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and delete this part. So we kind of have a full idea after this, which is the series will help ensure you're on a path to compliance and ensuring a sustainable brownfields program. What comes before it is important, but not so important that it needs to be here. You'll also see that, the lines are pretty close together. So I have this clicked and I'm gonna go ahead and click on this text, this T with advanced settings. As you can see, the line spacing is kind of in the negative realm as far as this bar goes. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Some other things you can do with this bar when manipulating text is you can click here for uppercase. This is going to be your alignment. And then, of course, also letter spacing. I'm going to add a few more things, and once I do that, I'm going to start manipulating it a little bit more to make sure that it really fits like the tribal tab, identity. So build the skills needed to strengthen your Brownfields program by registering today at tribaltab.org. It's a longer one, but this would be the call to action. I may cut it down. It kind of just depends on what we have space for. So again, I think I'm going to decrease this image slightly. And it also can be useful to know that this is an 8.5 by 11. So even though I'm zoomed kind of out, this text is going to be really large. I don't need this, so I'm going to click delete. Now this is left justified, and I think I'm going to keep it that way because I'm going to add a QR code. And if you haven't done this in Canva before, you can create QR codes directly within Canva, which is really helpful. So I'm just going to go over to the Elements tab, and we have a ton of different options here. So we'll use it to find an image later. But when you first come here, you can just type in anything, but there are also categories. So shapes, graphics, animations, photos, videos, audio, tons to choose from. And then as time goes on, when you click on stuff, it'll sort of auto-generate other options that I think might be useful for you. So I'm just going to type in QR code. So we've generated that, except I don't like how it looks. I don't like the white and black. It looks like it belongs on a bag of bread. So I'm going to go ahead and change the background color. For now, I'm going to change it to something that'll be similar to the color that I use on this flyer. Because it's blue, then I want the background to be white. Generate code. I think this needs to be a bit smaller so we have more room. Again, the text will still be a pretty good size. Now to find an image that would be useful, so I'm going to go ahead and type in rant. And so because I didn't click on anything individually like a category before I typed in grant, it's bringing up graphics, photos, videos, audio, tons of different options, and you can search all of them. I want a photo though, so I'm going to click see all. A lot of these are for pro users, so we're going to have to sift for one that works for us. Looks like we have Cary Grant. We do not want him. Go ahead. I'm not a fan of any of these, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one since it is available. Because I clicked on it, it's just going to put it in the center of the document, but I'm going to put it here for now. All right, now I want to add a logo. So I want to add the tribal tab logo. I'm going to come over here. If I had the branding feature, I would already have it preset here, but I can very easily click on uploads, upload files, and I'll just come on over here. I want this logo and that logo. At some point, I know I will want these images. You can even upload like Word docs and PDFs, and it will help transform that into a design that you can modify, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to just in case. Now we have some options to work with. And now that I'm uploading them, they will always be here. Now that this logo is here and any other image I have, what I can do is click on the background for this document. As you can see, the color is blue and it will start pulling colors from it, which is really nice. Sometimes it won't pull all of them. So one thing you can do that's really helpful is to then just use this color picker, and then you can take a color that you like from here. I want to use it for this element, so I'll do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just choose a blue color for this background. We want to make sure there's enough contrast so it's easy to read. Okay, now is where things can get a little bit tricky because we have a lot of stuff here. As you can see, we have the description down to something that's really brief, and there's still a lot of stuff to do things with. So what I'm gonna do is start working to make this just a little bit better to look at. We also need to create some hierarchy. We have a little bit of that with this title being much bigger, but we could definitely do more. I think this needs to be bigger. And then we could also maybe change the color of this since this is the call to action, but we also have a QR code. So these are key elements that we want to make sure to prioritize. And now I'm starting to get into a couple of different colors. So just to sort of maintain unity, I'm going to go ahead and make this element that same yellow. I think that looks a lot better.
Haley,
Yes,
while you're designing, can I ask you a question?
you sure can.
Is there a way to do spell check?
I'm not sure. I wish I could
I
say
think
so.
without knowing, this was a question that came in. I think what I would do if he can't, and I don't know the answer of if there's spell check in here, I would just copy the text into a Word document and spell check it that way, and then copy and paste it back in just to be sure. In the meantime, while Haley's still working, maybe I'll Google that and see if what the Google tells us, if there's a way to do spell check in Canva.
Thank you, Jen. All right, so I want to put this logo here at the top, but because this is an image grid, it is recognizing this also as an image and it immediately wants to just fill that, and that's not what I want. I want to put it right here. So what I'm going to do is, and this is super useful, especially for text, especially if you have overlapping elements, sometimes it's hard to get to things you need, or you accidentally delete something you don't want to delete. So you'll just click this, whatever element, and then you'll lock it, and that means it is stuck in place. And then for some things, you have to lock them twice. So for text in particular, you would lock this. This means you can't move it, but you still sometimes can modify certain aspects. So then you would lock it again. Just depends on the kind of feature that it is. So now that I have locked that background image, I can go ahead and put that there. And I'm just going to go ahead and replace this image with something else because it's just not working. It might not be the most relevant to what we're doing today, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to put something else here. So I'll have to unlock this. I'm gonna go back to elements. I decided I want a square, so I'm gonna go to shapes, click a square, and that's because I want the logo to stand out a bit more. It's actually pretty present, but just so we know how to do this, you can then set it here. Click on layer after you right click, send backward. I want this to be white. I'm also going to decrease the transparency slightly. I want to make sure it's centered. I'm gonna go ahead and lock this again. All right, and while I do like that, these are kind of sharp edges, and I think that doesn't really mesh with the tribal tab, sort of like smoother, like more natural aesthetics. So what I'm gonna do is click on corners over here. I can do some corner rounding. I'm gonna do just a little bit, and that just makes those edges a little bit softer. Another thing I can do, so this has already been locked, so we're safe here. Say from now on, I want these two elements to be together. I can just highlight them both. So it's highlighted the box behind it and the logo itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and group these. So from now on, I can move them together. That can be really useful. All right, there are probably a few other things I would do to this just to make it look a little bit better. But again, for the sake of time, we're gonna just call this a day so I can show how we can download them and then quickly change this into a different kind of graphic with a different format. But again, if we're thinking about grouping similar items together, we can do that here. All right, so once we've finished a design, we can come on over here, click on File. We will click on Download, and then we have options for the file type that we want to go ahead and use. So for something like this, PNG is what's suggested, but it's also going to be printed, so PDF print could be really good. And then as you see, there are two pages. So I only want to do the first page, so I'm going to come down here, click Select Page, Current Page. What's nice about adding page titles to individual pages is that, say this is a running design document for event flyers. So you keep all of your different kinds of event flyers here, and you kind of change out text for templates. And so you only need to, download one or two pages at a time. If you do that, and name it that way, when you do finally go to download it, it will save it to your computer as whatever title you get it, as opposed to all these different design documents having the same title. And so you go ahead and download it, and then it would be at your computer. That there. All right, so a really great feature that we technically cannot access today is to resize a document. So this is just for pro users, but it is pretty nice. You can go ahead and resize this and choose any sort of dimension you want. You would have to do some manipulation after that, but it's still really helpful. But there are ways to work around that. So what I would do in this instance is I'm going to go back here. So now we are in our Canva webinar folder, and we see that our flyer is here, and we can go ahead and click Add New. We could also click create if we wanted. And then we're going to go ahead and create a new design. And now I want to do a social media post. So we can either do Facebook or Instagram, and we could search for it, but since it's right here, I'm going to go ahead and do an Instagram post. Now these are going to be slightly different dimensions. So another thing that we can do is after we collapse these propagated templates, we can then go back here, copy it all. I'm going to click Command C, or you could right click and click copy. I'm going to come here, paste it. All right, and a lot of that text is white, so go ahead and move it. Make sure it's centered. Unfortunately, we still have that color here because we've used it in other places, um, or a similar color. And say I want it to be that exact same color. I like this like teal. I can click on it here, add new color. I can go ahead and copy this hex code. So it's that right there. I'll come here and then Command or Control V. And there we are. It appears that we are missing an image, and the reason that is because it is locked. So if I want to use that same image, I could unlock it, though it is also in my uploads, so I could find it there. All right, so this is an Instagram post. This is going to be a lot smaller. This is going to be on someone's mobile phone. So you'll want to think about that when you're changing what you're designing to make sure that people can still see it. So now it's in front of the logo. I'm going to come down here, right-click Layer, Send Backward. That going. I want to pull this up. And then I'm going to click on Workshop, Layer. I'm going to go ahead and bring to front. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger since, again, this is going to be on someone's mobile phone. We don't need a QR code. Will not be helpful. In a better kind of call to action for something like this, you could just put the direct URL, but of course they won't be able to click it like a link. So you could build the skills needed to strengthen your Brownfields program by registering today at tribaltab.org. Or you could just directly replace it by doing something like this, visiting the link in our bio. I want to make sure that it's big enough to read. We really have to be picky now because this just won't be legible. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Another thing that can be helpful to think about is where line breaks are taking place. Oftentimes we don't have a choice of where those are taking place, but for instance, if a line ends on an M dash, which is this right here, and then or, it is a little funky and it's a little bit awkward to read. So if you can, kind of work around that if you can, that would be a better place to create a line break. Gonna make this a little bit bigger and slightly closer to the title. I want there to be even spacing between both elements. So as you can see, I moved it up and it's showing 35 for both. And that means they are the same distance away. And then I want these two to be closer together. Gonna go ahead and highlight them both. I want them to be grouped together just to be safe. All right, and now we have our Instagram post. So I will title it like that. If I come back here, it should already be saved. Awesome. And so next what we're going to do is just check out the templates page. So there are thousands of templates here, and some of them are great and some of them are not so great. So you definitely have to learn how to peruse them and find one that's beneficial. And a lot of them are for pro users, but there definitely are a lot of free ones that are great starting points. So as you can see, you can go through different categories. Presentation would be for slide decks of various kinds. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. So one technique that I found to be really useful is if I'm looking through a bunch of templates and I'm just not seeing any that I like, or I see like one or two that are like kind of getting into the area of like design that I want, I will click on it because it doesn't automatically bring you to that template. It's just a preview. So then it will automatically populate what Canva perceives to be similar designs and slide decks. So you could do things that way. You could also just create a blank presentation. And so this is if you don't know what you're doing or you just want to go ahead and put some text down and then work on the design later. And then what you could do is click on any given option, and maybe you only want a specific page. So you can click on one and or you can apply all 10 pages. All right, and then I also want to show how we could do some photo editing. So again, you can edit directly from one of these quick actions on the home page, or you can go here to your uploads. You can upload another file. I uploaded a couple of images that I think could use some small edits. They're pretty good photos, but something that brightens them slightly. I think we'll go with this one. So we have it here. Canva is already bringing out some of the colors. A couple of other things I didn't point to earlier is this is going to be stroke, which is essentially just a border on anything. So you can increase that stroke, different kinds. You can change the color of the stroke as well. I don't want it though, so I'm going to get rid of it. And then again, transparency here, you can flip. This is really useful for certain icons and graphics. So once you click on the photo, you can click edit. And I think their editing tab's a little bit funky to look at first. It's really easy to miss the important stuff. So we have tools, and these can be fun to play with, the free ones, but really this stuff isn't all that useful. A lot of the filters are just okay, but there are other options here. If you want to create a drop shadow, that could be really good. I like to just go straight to adjust, and when you click on adjust, it's going to have the entire area be selected. So this is what you would think of if you're editing a photo like normal. So it will apply to the whole photo. If you want it to be warmer, I think this is pretty good as far as its color. It's not like too warm, not too cool. Sometimes you can add pink so something is a bit greenish. Or if you find that, a photo is too warm in yellow and orange, you can go ahead and cool it down just slightly. You might not even notice that like blues are being added. Could increase brightness, of course. And then when I'm doing some really quick photo editing, something I like to do is just up the vibrance a little bit. And often instead of increasing brightness more than just a little bit, I'll increase the whites. And that can be really helpful and not like drawing up too much of the highlights. And then also you can alter some of the colors if you want, or if you don't, you're not really liking this brown in the background. This can be useful sometimes. I've taken photos of places where the walls are like kind of like a, a, a really ugly yellow green, and so you can kind of mute that slightly, but it does not work for this photo. I would say this could be cropped. And if I were to do that, I could just go ahead and see. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. Can click crop. There's also the option here. And then, because we have all of this, we don't need any of that. It just takes up space. And if you're familiar with the rule of thirds, that can be really helpful if you don't know where to crop something, if you feel it needs to be cropped. So as you can see, it's already bringing up this grid. The idea of the rule of thirds is always to have as much as you can at one of these points that would be here to line it up with something that is like an element of interest in that, because that's kind of where the human eye will focus on first. So if I were to apply that here, it would look something like this. And especially eyes. Eyes tend to be one of those. And so now there's a bit more focus on her. You can even double click it. Maybe I want to get some of this out and move it over so she's not cropped so much. You can do something like that. And then one more thing with editing photos is if you click on edit again here, right here, you can go to, and this one's pretty fun, is you can highlight either the foreground or the background. And it works better with some types of images, especially like landscapes or things. So it could be really good for a brownfield as well. So now that we just have the background highlighted, I can come here to adjust, and then I can decrease the brightness if I wanted, if I really wanted to put focus on these individuals. I could go ahead and do that. I could increase the vibrancy, decrease it. Then we have that. Um, yeah, and then just lastly, I'll go back to the templates page. We do have different filters here. I'm gonna click X, and then you can go ahead and search by style as well. And I find that to be really helpful. So if I wanted to do like a one pager, for instance, and I might not need a dash. I could go here because a lot of these are really, a little silly. They look like they might belong in like an elementary school classroom. I can come down here and go to professional, corporate, or I could even type in nonprofit if it's not listed, and you might find ones that work a little bit better. Or you can even just type in nonprofit, get rid of this filter, and then it would just bring up a ton of different kinds of designs that sort of fit the theme of a nonprofit. I end up doing stuff like this a lot. And I think we're at time, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And then if we have any questions, I would be glad to answer those.